And we are live. It's Dr. J here in the house for a live Q&A. I got my chat up here on my other monitor, so I'm looking forward to getting some great questions and hitting it up. So it's a beautiful Monday here in Austin, Texas. It's fall in the air. Really excited for that. Favorite time of year. We don't quite have the foliage that I used to get living up in New England, but it'll do. It'll do. So off the bat today, what's up in the functional medicine world? What are you guys interested? What do you guys want to hear? What are your health challenges? I look forward to getting these messages on the chat, and we can talk about some solutions and make sure we have we're getting to the root cause. That's the goal in functional medicine. Always getting to the root cause. Never want to ignore the low-hanging fruits that may accelerate your body's ability to heal. Let's get a little light in the room. Hold on. There we go. I like that. All right, perfect. Question here coming in. I listened that taking omega-3s is bad because the fish oil gets oxidized in the capsule or before taking them, causes brown spots in the body. I got a lot recently. What do you think? Again, fish oil is like anything else. You can buy cheap fish oil. You can buy good fish oil, right? It's like a lot of these vegans that say all meat's bad. Well, come on, let's classify like the grass-fed organic meat from your local farmer and the McDonald's meat that's like kind of like CAFO, factory farm raised, not like a local pastured raised like the organic meat down the street at your local farmer, right? Two different things. We can't even compare them, yet a lot of people want to lump them in one category and say, hey, these are exactly the same thing because it's meat, right? No, well, we know fish oil, same kind of thing. The kind of fish oil that I use, for instance, like when I go out and I source fish oil, we look for a triglyceride ester fish oil, triglyceride form. That's easier to break down, easier to absorb. One of the big things with fish oil is burping it up. So I added lipase into my fish oil, okay? So then that's easier to break it down if you have any biliary or digestive issues. And number three, you're just choosing really good quality fish oil. You're putting it in the capsule to prevent oxidation, prevent oxygen exposure to then, which will further break it down and cause it to go bad faster. So good quality fish oil is going to be key. Those three things that I mentioned are really important. Hey, Gerald, hope all is well. Stomach issues. Give me some questions and we'll hit it up. Monica asked, Dr. J, any suggestions for snacks having Candida? Yeah, well, typically meat and fat's going to be great. I typically, recommend even a little bit of fruit may be okay, 1 or 2 servings a day. A lot of people go overboard and go super, super, super like no sugar, no carbohydrate at all. And that can create, putting these fungus into like a cyst or spore-like state. And then they kind of go into hibernation. So then when you start hitting the antimicrobial or antifungals, you don't have the ability, or they're kind of hiding in those herbs, won't really be able to hit them and knock them out. So I'm a big fan of having a little bit in there just to kind of bait them out. We want to get the sharks to come to the surface, so we throw a little bit of chum in the water. Very similar with FODMAPs and SIBO too. So a little bit goes a long way. Darcy writes here on Facebook, I have a leaky gut, insulin resistance, adrenal fatigue, menopause. I have nausea every day, which lessens around 4 o'clock. Let me see here. I got to hit next on it. Haven't quite figured out how to use YouTube or Facebook as well for some of these questions. They get cut off. It just says ... what ... So let me just try to answer what I can see here. So regarding your question here, Darcy, see if I can open it up on my laptop here. You got a lot of issues going on. So I hear insulin resistance. I hear menopause. I hear adrenal fatigue. There's a lot of things happening. So first off, if there's insulin resistance, work on the diet stuff first, right? Get your diet anti-inflammatory, paleo template. I would kind of move toward a ketogenic paleo template primarily to work on the insulin resistance. When you work on the insulin resistance, that's going to significantly improve enzymes in your body that convert your hormones to testosterone, for instance. I look up a video I did last month called the big switch, the big hormone switch. The more you drive insulin resistance, you're going to upregulate certain enzymes in the body that convert estrogen to testosterone. And in men, it works the opposite. The enzyme aromatase gets upregulated, which converts testosterone to estrogen. So it's the big hormone switch, and insulin resistance will help that. So ketogenic, kind of paleo template's a great starting point. Everything else we need to dive in deeper with on the functional medicine side of the fence. Okay, good. I can see it on my Facebook here. What is causing this? Great. And the other component is adrenal dysfunction, female hormone dysfunction. That needs to get looked at by a functional medicine professional like myself that can run specific testing. And of course, all the diet and lifestyle stuff. Most menopausal women, they've had a stressful life up to this point. up to where they're at, let's say menopause hits between 49 and 53 or so, then now their hormones need to lean on the adrenals more because the ovary, the follicle reserve has run out. The ovaries aren't kicking in the hormones they once were. Now the adrenal glands get leaned on. So it's that backup generator you forgot to recharge after the last hurricane. Now you're going to plug it in, right? Hurricane Harvey or Hurricane Irma hits. You're like, oh, shoot, the generator's only 10% full. And then you don't quite get the same effect of having a full generator, which is the equivalent of having some level of adrenal dysfunction and going into menopause. So get those things looked at. Also, good quality stool testing to get the gut looked at, make sure the infections are addressed. Hope that helps. Let's see here. Any other questions here? Do you have any thoughts on immunosuppressants like Nexvax2? Give me a little more intel on that. If it's an immunosuppressive drug, my biggest thing is fix the immune dysfunction to begin with. Why is your immune system overreactive? If that is the case, almost always there's some type of gastrointestinal permeability, some level of leaky gut, typically driven by an inflammatory diet, hormonal dysfunction, followed by some kind of gut infection. It's typically the presentation. Gerald says, I'm parasite-free and taking your probiotics. I want to ensure my leaky gut is completely healed, so I want to take your GI Restore. Is only 1 month of taking it sufficient to heal leaky gut? I would say 1 to 2 months is totally fine. Other things that you can do in conjunction is drink some nice low-sugar fermented kombucha, bone broth, ginger tea, all those, collagen peptides. These are all going to help because they provide a lot of nutritional building blocks that help with the enterocyte regeneration. That's kind of the cells in your gut that forms the gut lining. Things like vitamin D and driving inflammation down and avoiding those bad foods decrease zonulin. Zonulin's basically, it basically pulls the zipper down in your gut. It unzips the tight junctions in the gut and makes it more permeable. So again, if you can do those things and make sure you're infection-free and get the probiotics in there, you're going to be in a phenomenal place. Monica suggests, thank you. Also, when do you suggest taking activated charcoal? Activated charcoal. So I got sushi. I had sushi Saturday night and I grabbed some activated charcoal, took that with me at the sushi restaurant. So I took that with the food because it's potentially mercury in there. I also had a glass of champagne over the weekend, took it with the champagne. So I take it with foods that are notably may not have the best effects, right? A little bit of alcohol, not the best. Took it with the alcohol. Love sushi, really good food, but potential mercury in there. I took it for that too. And then if I'm not getting exposed to things that I think may be problematic, well, then I take it in between meals away from supplements, ideally, is the best way to do it. Great question on that. Is there a vaccine that allows people to eat gluten again? Well, number one, you wouldn't want that vaccine because gluten is not an infection, right? It's not an infection. It's not something your immune system has to attack. Like, let's say you get exposed to a flu virus, right? Well, that flu virus is only going to happen at certain times of the year, and that virus will morph from year to year, right? So having a vaccine for it, you can make the argument will get your immune system revved up for it, and then we'll be able to attack it. The difference is you are the one exposing yourself to gluten. So you really wouldn't want to do that because you'd be getting your Th2 immune system branch so revved up that every time it would be exposed to gluten, it would attack it. And really, you just want to decrease the exposure so it doesn't have to be revved up. Also, my analogy of flu vaccines, that contains 25 micrograms of mercury. So we wouldn't want to have the ethyl mercury exposure in a vaccine like that because that's going to obviously drive more leaky gut and leaky brain. Gerald says, if I have sensitivity to grains, is it an issue to eat meat from Safeway as it is grain-based? Or should I switch to a grass-fed source 100% of the time? Ideally, what's that quote? I think it's the Anchorman quote. 80% of the time, no, you should eat grass-fed meat 80% of the time, 100% of the time. So in other words, you should do your grass-fed meat, right? 100% grass-fed, like really good quality, at least 80 to 90% of the time. Again, they're feeding, like, new study just came out, maybe not a study, but a new article came out that they're actually feeding conventional cattle defective Skittles. Okay, so the Skittles that don't make the grade that go in your kids' candy, they're actually feeding those defective Skittles to conventional meat. This is not good, all right, for obvious reasons. An animal can only give what it gets. So if it's getting crappy freaking food like Skittles and other junk, it's not going to build a healthy quality protein, amino acid, and fat nutrient building blocks for our bodies. So we really want to have cows that are fed healthier. Of course, you can tier it down. Like, let's say Safeway offers maybe a free range kind of thing where it's maybe grass fed but grain finished, that's definitely better, especially if they're avoiding antibiotics and they're avoiding the pesticides. That's definitely better. So do your best to tier it. Again, organic pasture fed's the best. Organic, non-pasture fed second. Free range without the antibiotics and hormones is next after that. Do you suggest having mercury dental fillings removed? Is it the cause of my Candida? Well, first off, I recommend getting tested first to see where your mercury levels are at. Number two, get your gut fixed. A lot of mercury is going to be removed just by healthy gut function, hepatobiliary function. Work on that stuff first, and then dive in deeper and get your mercury levels tested. I got a mercury test over there in the corner. I got to go get that done on myself very soon. I have a digestive issue, gut dysbiosis, etc. I'm worried about eating pastured pork. Example, sausage, because of some online info saying some of the parasites still exist after cooking. Number one, if you're going to do pork, just make sure it's good quality, right? I do like Peterson's kielbasa, or I'll do like, really good quality bacon, and just make sure it's cooked well. I don't have a problem with that as long as it's pasture fed and good quality. Pork tends to be one of those animals that they just kind of feed anything, Pigs will almost eat anything you give it. So you really want to try to get pasture fed, so it's eating higher quality foods. Same analogy with the cows being fed the Skittles, right? You can only give what you got. So if you're fed crappy food, you can only give, lower quality nutrition to the person that's eating you. So just keep that in mind. I think you'll be okay. And of course, just try to avoid the sketchy places. And if you're under concern, still have some hydrochloric acid and some enzymes, and you should be in good place. How do you feel about non-grass-fed meat bone marrow? Not as bad as non-grass-fed meat. It's hard to find grass-fed beef bones. Yeah, again, bones are probably going to be a little bit different, but it's same kind of thing. The healthier the animal, the healthier the bones. So I would just do your best. I think having some bone marrow, even if it's non-grass-fed, is still okay. Ideally, we try to have it at least organic, so it's not given all the pesticides and chemicals. That's a better option for you. Dr. J, are you giving any JIH supplements out tomorrow night instead of high sugar candy to all the Halloweens? No, but I'm going to just give them just some dark chocolate pieces, 80%, 90% dark chocolate. I'm going to be that guy. But yeah, that's kind of what we do in our house. We do just really good dark chocolate, and that's it. Keep it really simple, easy peasy. Gerald says, I'm worried about my wife could have given me H. pylori after I eradicate it because my stomach feels tight constantly. Could this be a symptom that H. pylori came back? Well, going back, Gerald, if we're still having symptoms like that, I would recommend that we treat her at least with the GI Clear 2 and maybe Mastica at least 30 days. I think it'd be good to revisit that and at least get her on a 30-day protocol. If she's unwilling, let's talk about getting her tested with the GI map and see what kind of compliance we can get there after that. A couple questions here on Facebook. I'm going to give my Facebook people some love here. Lisa asks, is there anything I can do for migraines related to low barometric pressure systems? So I imagine like when it rains and stuff. Yeah, when it rains, cloudy, snow coming in, I get terrible migraines that last for days until the system gets pushed out. So typically, if you're getting like these low pressure systems are creating that, there probably is some level of congestion that's happening, whether it's in the sinuses or the lymphatic system. So number one, I'd make sure your diet's very anti-inflammatory. That's number one. Number two, I'm curious if caffeine at all helps, because caffeine tends to vasodilate a lot of the brain vessels, so that can help with any congestion. Number two, herbs like feverfew are very helpful. Herbs like magnesium are super helpful. Ginger is super helpful. Ginger helps move the lymph as well, and it kind of helps keep things moving around, moving on, and not getting stagnant. And of course, making sure the inflammatory foods are out, grains, and of course, cutting dairy out will be essential, because dairy can be a little bit mucus forming, and that may congest your system. I work on those things first. If there's a hormonal connection outside of just the barometric pressure stuff, we may have to dig there, but that's a good first start for you. Hope that helps. What could be causing rising blood sugar despite a very intentional organic home-cooked paleo diet? Okay, so rising blood pressure, I would look at vitamin D. I would look at potentially low levels of magnesium and other potential vectors of inflammation in your body. Those would be the big things I would look at first. Of course, you can try some herbs in the meantime. Magnesium is a really easy one to start with because it's a natural beta blocker, which will help relax the heart a bit more too. Let's see. Lisa says anti-inflammatory diet. Yes. Caffeine sensitive. Haven't tried ginger or feverfew. No dairy. All right, good. Try those things first, and I would just see how we do And, you know, we may want to look a little bit deeper at the gut because that's a huge vector of inflammation that most people forget about. Let me go back to YouTube here. See, Tessa says, 12-year-old daughter after being on antibiotics for ear infection. What do you recommend for her as far as probiotics? 12 years old, I would do my probio. Flora would be great. Higher bifidobacter or lactobacillus. The phage in there will help knock out the E. coli. May want to throw in some GI Clear 5, some oil of oregano, just to prevent any rebound fungal overgrowth. I would do probably both of those. You could stagger it up, though. You may want to do the GI Clear 5 first, probiotic second. That would be helpful. And maybe start getting some fermented foods in her diet, a little bit of low sugar kombucha, maybe a little bit of sauerkraut if you can get that in there. But Kavita would be good too. That'll get you some spore-like bacillus probiotics too, which are different than just what's going to be in the probioflora. Probioflora, it kind of gets the lactobacillus bifidobacter. Megaspore has some spore biotics that are bacillus strain in there. Both are in my store. And then you can also just add in some of the Kavita, which also will have bacillus strains as well. The GT Dave brand will have the Saccharomyces strain, which will be yeast protective as well. Hope that helps. Let's see here. Flavia says, I was treated for H. pylori with Ozalife and a gastrodenol for almost 2 months. Breath test came back negative. I was told by someone the test means nothing. Is that true? Could I still be infected? Again, the breath test, what it's doing is it's looking at an elevation typically in CO2. So H. pylori has an enzyme that produces urease that takes urea from protein metabolism and it spits it off into ammonia, which has a pH of 11, which lowers your stomach acid levels, which decreases HCl and makes your digestion stink. Number two, it spits off CO2. So with that breath test, that urea breath test, it's typically measuring elevations in CO2. So it's kind of an indirect measurement. It's a nice gauge to look at, but you really want to look at the ideal stool test to see what's going on. And some people may still have other symptoms of bacterial overgrowth or SIBO or parasites, and it may not be H. pylori. So I would look a little bit deeper and do a comprehensive stool test, Flavia. And that would be the GI map one. And you can get that from my site. If you need, click on the Healthy Living store, click on lab test and email my office and we can get you that. James, any remedies and relief for a child's cough? Yes, giving daughter herbal tea with honey. So the first thing is you can do the ginger tea. That is going to be the best thing with a little bit of honey in there. That's a natural antitussin. You can also do cherry bark. I think it's wild cherry bark. That's super helpful as well. You can also give her a little shot of apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar will strip all the mucus and crap off the throat, and that will significantly help. You can also do zinc lozenges. Suck on one of those every hour or two. That'll be super helpful. You can also use the GI Clear 3 Silver. You can gargle with that for 1 to 2 minutes and swallow and do a teaspoon of that every hour or two acutely for the first day or two. Is it safe to take Nature-Throid with probiotics? Yeah, you're probably going to be okay with that. I'm more worried about taking it with minerals and other nutrients that could affect it. The probiotics, you're probably going to be fine. Gerald says, what blood sugar / ketosis meter do you use? And when is the best time and the best frequency? Great question. Because I practice what I preach. I have it on my desk right here. Let's pull it out and do a little measurement here. Abbott's got one here. It's called the Precision Extra. I'm looking at getting a continuous one that I can literally just hook up to myself and I can see my blood sugar all day long. Cool thing about the continuous one is you can see, like if you're watching a scary movie, what happens. You can see when a stressful event happens, what it does to your blood sugar. Because a lot of people, right, they're thinking about blood sugar and they're thinking about, oh, the food, right? The food component, which is, I think probably the biggest challenge that we have on our blood sugar, especially if we're eating a whole bunch of inflammatory foods and a lot of refined sugar. But we cannot ignore the effect that stress has on our blood sugar. Okay, so you can see here, blood ketone test strip. Okay, so you can get these here on eBay. They're a little cheaper. They're expensive. They're like $2 a strip. So every time I test myself, I'm like, oh, well, $2, there it goes. Let me pull this out here and we'll do a little test. So I like to be at least 0.5 to 1 in the morning. I mean, this morning, all I had for breakfast was collagen peptides, MCT, good amount of butter, and some coffee. So I feel pretty good with that kind of meal. Typically, I get at least 20 grams of collagen, maybe 30 sometimes. Okay, let's test this guy out here. Okay. Let's put it in there, a little blood in the system. Okay. Turn into a vampire now. All right, 8 seconds. It'll tell me the reading here. So we'll figure this out. So this is the meter I like right now. There are other ones coming out, so I may update my stance on that. I like the idea of a continuous one. So I'm 0.4 for ketones. Remember I said 0.5 to 1. This may get higher as we get closer to lunchtime. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. So that's a good meter there for you guys. Let's go back and give some Facebook love here. Danielle asks, off topic, I haven't been sleeping well lately, difficulty falling asleep and then waking up several times a night. I'm female around menstruation. I'm female and around menstruation. Wonder if you think it's hormonal and driven. Have ideas. What else could it be? Let me click the see more button. I have tried honey, MCTs, collagen before bed, whole magnesium, calming that routine, low light exposure, meditation, reading. Not sure what else to do, but I'm desperate to sleep. Let me just check here. Okay. So number one, does it happen more at certain times? You said it happens more around menstruation. So the first thing I would do, if it's your menses, I would add in more iron. So I'd want to look at, are you losing excessive blood, which is causing you to go low iron during that time? So I would, one, add in more liver during that time frame, maybe an ounce or two a day during that time frame, number one. Number two, it sounds like you're doing a lot of the blood sugar stuff. You said difficulty falling asleep, then waking up several times at night. So it sounds like you're doing a little bit, I would do a little bit of a meal before bed. And if you do get up, I would get a little bit of protein and fat or a little shake next to your bedstand. So if you do get up, you can at least stabilize your blood sugar. And it sounds like it's really hormonally driven. So we may want to try some hormonally supporting herbs, like a chase tree kind of estrogen modulating blend. I know, like I recommend like the Feminescent Cycling is one that I've used with potentially you. We may want to use a female tonic that's a different herbal blend. That may be a good option for you, but I would look at getting the liver in there because it could be iron based. If you're really bleeding a lot, you could be losing that iron and that could be throwing you off and creating a stress response. So I'd look there. If you want to elaborate and give me a little more intel, I can come back to you in a bit. Okay, cool. Let's keep on hitting everything up here, guys. Vivek says, is weight loss always associated with type 1 diabetes? It can occur with type 2 diabetes as well. My fasting blood sugar is 109 and I'm having weight loss. Yeah, so you can have weight loss. I just have a type 2/type 1 diabetic where like it's not a type 1 diabetic issue where there's an autoimmunity, but it's like an adrenal failure that occurs. A pancreatic failure where we see the C-peptide levels drop, which means the pancreatic output of insulin is super low. Again, you need insulin to actually store fat. Like if you look at like type 1 diabetics before, I think 1920 or 1930, when insulin was synthesized, they would literally just shrivel up and die. So you need insulin to get fat. So if you have type 2 diabetes, that's kind of a failure of insulin production that basically drives type 1. So like at a pancreatic failure where it's not like an insulin resistance thing, but a insulin failure thing that's later on in life, yeah, you can definitely get smaller because of that. I had a patient last week, 5'2", 5'1", 90 pounds, same thing. Blood sugar was 200, 300, 400 after meals. We ran C-peptide. It was less than 1. We ran fasting insulin. It was less than 2. So we know that she did not have an insulin resistant issue, but we ran her insulin beta cell antibody. She did not have antibody issues. So this was some kind of pancreatic failure. Had to refer her off to the endocrinologist to get her insulin levels fine-tuned. And then I'll work with her to make sure we fine-tune her insulin levels to get her blood sugar right. But that can happen. Again, one's more pancreatic failure, one's insulin resistant driven. The test we do to differentiate it, C-peptide, fasting insulin help differentiate. And then we can also look at insulin antibodies too. Let's see here. Dr. J, are you sure all the grass-fed butter in the butter coffee along with MCT isn't going to cause clogged arteries or potential cardiovascular disease? Sometimes I have 2 per day. I just got approved for the highest level of life insurance by a life insurance company. They came in, I think it was Ohio Mutual. They came in and tested me for everything, and they looked at my blood and lipids, and I think I was in the 50s for triglycerides. HDL was 50s. Cholesterol was below 200. Okay. And I had a whole bunch of fat that morning as well. So I got approved for the highest level of life insurance you can get for a healthy individual. So the biggest driving factor of elevation in cholesterol will be high levels of insulin, so excessive carbohydrates and refined sugar. It does this by activating the hemimethylglutarate-CoA reductase enzyme. It's the HMG-CoA reductase enzyme, the same enzyme that statins block. Okay. Insulin increases it, and trans fat. So those are the biggest things that are going to have an effect on your cholesterol. Again, remember, cholesterol in a body that's about 100 degrees is going to be liquid. All right. So you see, hey, look at these saturated fats. It clogs your arteries. Yeah, but your arteries are 100 degrees. They're not 60 or 70 degrees like your pipes in your house. All right. So you like put down cholesterol or bacon fat. You're like worried about it clogging. Pipes are not 100 degrees. 100 degrees, those fats are liquid. Your body also uses micelles, which are like these fatty acid cholesterol transporters, to transfer everything. And these things go and they become building blocks for your hormones, and they also become a great source of energy too. Hope that helps. What's your best adaptogenic plant? I'm right now loving ashwagandha. I love it for anxiety. I love it for mood. I love it for sleep. Oh yeah. So Danielle, one thing we may want to throw in there is a little bit of ashwagandha as well. That may be something we want to look at. Look at ashwagandha supreme. We can talk about using some ashwagandha or adding in potentially some chase tree to help with that. But I would do the iron stuff first. Okay, let's go back here. Gerald says, my daughter, early 20s, complains of bad PMS symptoms a week before a period. How to reduce this? Well, number one, of course, paleo template, anti-inflammatory, blood sugar stability. Women, that last week before, blood sugar will throw off your hormones big time. Aberrations in blood sugar, skipping meals, too much sugar will create this tug of war with insulin and cortisol and adrenaline. That stress response that happens will create progesterone, a demand on progesterone to be pulled downstream to cortisol to modulate blood sugar, which will start to throw you more into an estrogen dominant state and drop your progesterone prematurely, which will create a lot of symptoms. So work on the blood sugar component. Of course, you know, if I have more data, I typically will modulate with a cyclical augmentation protocol of progesterone, and we'll use some herbs as well to help with some of the female hormones as well. Female tonic, my feminescence, cycling is what I love as well. That's a huge one. Let's see here. Any other questions, guys, so far? Let's see, Flavia says, if I schedule an appointment with you, will you treat me personally, or do you have a team? I typically am treating new patients right now. I am looking to get someone on board to help with the new patient consults, and I'm doing that just so I can help more active patients at the same time. But as of right now, you would be working with me. What's the continuous blood sugar meter called? Not quite sure yet. Still trying to figure out which one to get. Monica asks, how's my baby doing? He's doing super good. I just bought him a little pumpkin costume. So when I take him out trick-or-treating tomorrow, he'll be all dressed up for his first Halloween. So we are really excited about that. Thank you for asking. My son's 27 years old and still wets the bed. What could be the cause? Parasites. Look deeper at potential parasite infections and or potential underlying infections in the urinary tract that could be driving stuff. So I would look there. That's a common cause. Of course, drinking alcohol and stuff before bed, that is going to decrease antidiuretic hormone and make you pee more. So that's another one there. See here, how accurate is the GI map test at picking up parasites? I like it. I think it's my favorite. It can pick up a lot of things that other tests can't pick up. Some people says it's too sensitive, but I think it's a good test to look at things. I like it so far. Thanks, Monica, for that. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Yes, I've been interested in ashwagandha. I have a powder version that I was taking. I didn't really feel like it was doing anything, so I stopped taking it. Yeah, I think with ashwagandha and a lot of adaptogens, if you're doing really good, well, it's only going to help you continue doing really good. So if you're already doing good, like mood or stress, it's only going to help support that. It may not make it go better because it's just helping you adapt to stress better. It's helping to modulate cortisol better. So maybe something you want to add back in there. Danielle wrote, it's been more prior to this menstruation, not typically. My actual menstruation started yesterday and it's lighter than it's ever been. So I'm not sure about the iron, but I have had issues with it in the past. I'm out of feminescence, so I'll order. Yeah, I would do feminescence. We may need to talk about adding in some progesterone if you're not, or adding in what's called female tonic, which is a blend of other adaptogenic herbs female-wise. You may have to tweak that a little bit. So we'll just have to go back to the drawing board and see what's working, but keep on trucking. What would you recommend for someone that is not metabolizing fat, protein, or carbs? I'm insulin resistant. I have chronic fatigue syndrome and major digestive issues. So first off, I would work on kind of moving toward like a paleo kind of GAPS diet where things are more bone broth and easy to process. I would add in some hydrochloric acid, some enzymes, and bile salts, and I would do that individually. So you can really fine tune the dose, because if you're having a lot of digestive issues, you may not be able to handle much hydrochloric acid, but you may be able to handle more enzymes and bile salts. So I would do that individually. So in my line, I would do like HCl Supreme, I would do Enzyme Synergy and Liver Supreme. Then you can kind of fine tune those three together and just really make sure the foods cook super well, bone broth kind of crock pot kind of form. So that kind of pre-digest it. And I would just focus on getting most of your carbohydrates from vegetables, maybe a tiny bit of squash or sweet potatoes in the crock pot, but I would do 80 to 90% veg and then good healthy fats and proteins. Hope that helps. Hey, you're welcome, Danielle. See here, James Wright. Dr. J, could the GABA spray be causing extreme fatigue? Is it working too good? Can you have too much GABA? Hold on, let me check. Got my little GABA spray here. I would say always test it. I mean, if you feel a little bit more tired and fatigued after taking it, then I would primarily just use it at night when it's the right time of day to get super relaxed and fatigued. So I would just pull it out during the day, give it a try at night, and see if that helps. See, lastly, how many milligrams of ashwagandha do you take a day? I'll tell you right now. So I use ashwagandha Supreme here, and I do 300 milligrams. I probably do that 4 to 5 times a day. So I think between 1 and 2 grams of ashwagandha, or 1 to 2,000 milligrams, is totally fine. Hope that helps. Let's see here, where was I at? Can you recommend a good water filter for home use, preferably something that goes under the sink? Yes, Aquasana is good. Aquasana is good. I have a affiliate link on my website. If you want to support me there, go check that out. Their countertop ones are good. They have a reverse osmosis and one that's carbon based. Both are good. If you have the little extra money, I would go reverse osmosis, and that'll be a little bit more cleaner. And they also have something that will add the minerals back in. So I would look at that one. And I think if you go to justinhealth.com/water, justinhealth.com/water, that will take you there. That's the one I have. I have 2. I have a whole house as well as a countertop. I like the whole house because I don't have to then worry about buying water filters from my shower or from upstairs in my bed at night. I can grab a glass of water and I have to run downstairs and have to use that countertop. So I like that aspect. It's pretty cheap. I mean, it ends up costing me for the whole house less than $100 a year. So just factor, if you go to the store and you buy, let's just say $10 a bottled water a week, well, guess what? In 10 weeks, you could have afforded the whole house filter for the year. So it totally makes sense economically if you draw it out. Makes a lot of sense. Can you recommend a good water filter? Answer that. Ashwagandha, goji berry powder, or nightshades, are they okay with leaky gut? Well, some extreme patients, if they have a lot of autoimmunity, will pull all the nightshades and those solanine compounds out. And if I feel they may benefit because of it, like they have a lot of anxiety or cortisol perturbations that are higher, or sleep issues, I may add it in slowly, but I like to give them at least a month or so without it. That way, if we add it in and they start going backwards, we at least have a really good baseline to work with. So hope that makes sense. Monica asks, would you suggest to cook with almond flour on a Candida diet? I think that's okay. Just don't go crazy with it. Remember, if you have like a whole bunch of almond flour, that's like a lot of nuts. That may be like 2 or 3 handfuls of nuts. So as a treat, like in that 80, 20, 90, 10 thing, like as a 10 or 20% cheat, like, hey, Halloween's coming up, right? Maybe you want to do a little treat. I think that's okay. Just kind of make a note on how you feel. Keep an eye on your skin and how you feel. And if you go backwards at all, just make a note on that. Also, arrowroot's nice. Coconut flour is nice too. So keep an eye on those as well. Dr. J, when was the last time you ate a donut? What's your favorite gluten-free? Of course. So I use Studio Kitchen, which is like a meal service, and they have these Texas chocolate chip cookies, which I had last night. We made them from scratch. It's basically like pecan, organic cane sugar, and I think it was a little bit of coconut or almond flour and an egg. So like 4 or 5 ingredients, super simple. Made them for my wife and I last night. We watched I think the new Stranger Things on Netflix. So that was awesome. So like once or twice a week, I'll sneak in one of those. But of course, I got 19,000 steps on my Fitbit yesterday and water skied in the nice cold Lake Austin for an hour or 2. So I try to earn those when I do them. Hope that helps, guys. See here, any last questions? Let me know. If not, I'm going to jump on and see a patient here in just a bit. I'll give you guys another minute here to see if anyone wants to pipe up. Very cool. All right. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Thank you, Gerald. Appreciate that. We're always working on the skin. Gluten's a big thing that throws me off. So skin is the best indicator of what's happening in the gut for sure. See here, couple more questions just came in. I have adrenal, thyroid hormone, and gut issues, but I would work out a lot 5 days a week, quite heavy weights. I was thinking of increasing my carbs to 30% on workout days and 20% on rest days. I think that sounds great. Give it a try. Give it a try. See how you feel. Again, make sure you feel energized after your workout. Doing a little cyclical carbohydrates, work like that, I think is great. Mom had a kidney removed due to cancer. Any advice I can tell her to do? Her MD said to go low protein, but didn't specify on how much low would you think. I would do more of a ketogenic approach, okay? Ketogenic diets are phenomenal for cancer. Not all cancers, but most cancers. Most cancers feed off of sugar. Also, a ketogenic diet is very, very neutral on the kidneys. Sugar is one of the biggest things with the kidneys that can create a lot of stress. Thank you, Monica. Happy Halloween to you as well. And see here, and Dalen Clark says, my husband sleeps 2 to 3 hours at night and suffers from acid buildup and bothers him 24 hours a day. Paleo template, get the diet shifted, add in HCl and enzymes during the day, and just do a little bit of light acid at night. Make sure he's upright for at least 3, maybe 4 hours before he goes to bed. Typically with gastroparesis or delayed emptying from the stomach to the small intestines, that food is delayed. And what happens is once you go horizontal, that acid's still there and can make its way up. So do some bitters like ginger that will help that delayed emptying work better, and make sure he's vertical, right? 45 degrees or up for at least 3 to 4 hours before bed. I wouldn't do any major acid, but I'd do some bitters like ginger. Hope that helps. What's the difference? Mitchell says, what's the difference between using probiotics and using GI Clear? GI Clear is an antimicrobial, so it's going to work on the killing and the eradication of a lot of the infectious debris. The probiotics are beneficial bacteria that we typically use to repopulate afterwards. So if we look at the 6 R's, first R, remove the bad foods, second R, replace enzymes, acids, third R, repair, work on repairing nutrients for the gut lining if needed, or repairing the hormones, adrenals, thyroid, female hormones. Fourth R is removing the infections. That's where the clearing herbs come in. The fifth R is repopulation or reinoculation. That's where the probiotics come in. Fourth is the killing. Fifth is repopulation. Sixth is retesting. I hope that sequence makes sense to you there. See here, is AIP better than just paleo for healing the gut? Yeah, initially AIP is a little better because it cuts out the nuts, the seeds, the nightshades, and the eggs. So it can be better than just doing the grains, legumes, dairy. So yeah, that's definitely one step up. That's the 2.0 version. What are your thoughts on grape seed oil? I know it's decent fat. I just not one that I go to. I like going into more saturated fats for cooking. So ghee, tallow, bacon fat, coconut oil, grass-fed butter. I like those just because of the saturated nature. And then for more unsaturated fats, olive oil and avocado oil. Let me see if I can look up the smoke point though. If you go to my members area, I have a handout on cooking oils, and I know grapefruit or grape seed is in there. I think it's a medium to low smoke point, so it may not be the best. Avocado oil has got a pretty good smoke point. Again, it's something I use more in dressings, or if you look at like Mark's Primal Mayo, that's one of the oils in there. Hey, Tiffany, hope all's well. See here, I'm going to get you that info here on that fatty acid. We'll see what I can come up with. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge super fan of it, like coconut oil or like ghee or healthy saturated fats. I'm a bigger fan of those just because saturated fats, if you look at their chemical structure, there's a hydrogen bond on 4 different places on the carbon atom, which makes it a lot more stable. With a lot of these unsaturated fats, there's a carbon and then there's a double bond and then a carbon and then 2 hydrogens. That makes it a little bit less stable, and that makes it a little bit more prone to oxidizing. That's one of the things you got to worry about there. Hope that helps. Hope that makes sense for you guys. Let me just see if I can get that data on the smoke point. That'd be really cool if I can get that for you guys. All right. Any other questions? Feel free and let me know. Great. Yeah. Awesome job. Coconut oil is really great, Tiffany. Keep that going. Very good, healthy fatty acid. And it's you can cook it at higher levels too, and it won't oxidize. That's really good. All right. Guide to cooking fats and oils. Pulling it up here right now. Let's see here. Yeah, so that's one of the ones that are more unhealthy in seed-based oils. So I would definitely avoid that. That's one in the areas that is not so good. Let me get you the exact smoke point on that though, if I can. See if this comes up here. Okay, here we go. Yep, that's a not recommended. It's a very unstable fatty acid. It's going to be definitely more on the refined section, so we really want to avoid it. Smoke point's 420. My faves are going to be coconut butter, ghee, cocoa butter, tallow, palm, lard or bacon fat, or duck fat. Epic's got some of these too that you can get, some of the bacon and duck and palm. So Epic's got some great options. Dave Asprey recommends krill over fish oil. What do you think? Looking at Kirkland's krill from Costco. Yeah, Dave Asprey likes it because of the phosphorylated bonds in the krill oil. This phosphorylation that happens increases the absorption, so you need less of it. Plus, there's an antioxidant in krill called astaxanthin. Said that 10 times fast. So these are antioxidant components in there that are helpful. Again, I like fish oil just because of the higher amounts of EPA and DHEA you get. And krill oil is a little bit more expensive. So I'm a bigger fan of the fish oils. But do I think krill is beneficial? Yep. And if you wanted to take it, I wouldn't fault you for it. I still think it's great. Any suggestions for the underweight? Yeah, eat more. Make sure you're digesting your food. Make sure your stools look good. There's not floating. They're not a whole bunch of food particles. Increase enzymes and HCl if you need. Would sweating via near and infrared sauna be beneficial for healing? Yes, sweating is a great method of detoxification and would help push out toxins. Tiffany says, we have a boy with dairy sensitivity, so we drink a lot of almond milk. What's your take on almond milk? I think almond milk's okay. Just make sure it's unsweetened. A lot of these milks are full of a whole bunch of sweeteners. Try to make sure it's organic so you don't get a lot of pesticides or chemicals in there. I would try rotating in some unsweetened coconut milk. So Delicious makes one that's unsweetened. And if you're still sensitive to that, you may even want to try rotating in some hemp milk. So coconut milk may be an even better alternative. Plus, there's a lot of MCT oil in there, which can be helpful for brain function. So it's a great energy source. And just make sure it's unsweetened, and I think you'll be good to go. And if you want to use it for smoothies, you can always add in a little bit of fruit, a little bit of berries, maybe a drop of stevia to sweeten it up without getting the added sugar. Hope that helps everyone. Hey, I got to run. Wish everyone a happy Halloween, and we will be in touch. I'll be back online probably this Friday, and I may be back on for a podcast this afternoon. So stay tuned for my YouTube feed. Click the bell so you get the notifications, and I look forward to being with y'all later. You guys take care. Bye now.